Hi, and welcome to the BookishStitcher podcast. My name is Jeanette. You can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, and Goodreads as BookishStitcher, all one word. I hope you had an amazing week since I last podcasted. I got to do something really special this last weekend, something I never gotten to do before, and that is that I went with some friends up to Washington, D.C., and then from there on to the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. So that's kind of going to be what this episode is going to be about, knitting and DC adventures and the Maryland Sheep and Wool, just kind of a fun little recap. And I'm recording later than I normally do. I normally record on Sundays, and today is Monday because I got back yesterday and I was just pretty tired. I'm actually still really tired, recuperating after being gone and not getting much sleep because you're just, sleeping in unfamiliar environments. But my husband was joking that he would be me on the podcast today if I wanted him to, that I have a Halloween kind of wig, and he's like, I can wear the Halloween wig and I can pretend to be you. So I thought that was funny, but maybe sometime we'll do that for a laugh. But yeah, so I'm here today instead of my husband in a wig. And I'm just going to show you what I got and talk about it and some kind of fun stuff because it was a wonderful trip. So before I left for Maryland Sheep and Wool, I was determined to finish this one thing that I'm going to show you right now. So this is my First Light shawl by Vera Valimaki, and it's done. So I started this back in January when I was doing a whole bunch of Vera Valimaki patterns for my designer of that month, and I knitted out of some hazel knits in the chamois pants colorway and some lammy toes, which is the speckled, in the festive conifer, and it's huge. It goes well over my queen size bed. Now I think if I were to knit this again, what I would have done for the top edge, because it's a little it's harder to block out the top, it's a little tight, is I would have done a yarn over at the beginning of every, like knit 2, yarn over, or knit 1, yarn over, and then drop it on the coming back row just to like give it that extra give. I tried to make sure I was knitting pretty loosely on the first couple of stitches, but it just doesn't give it as much as doing that yarn over and then dropping it. But I love the colors. This is going to be my shawl that hopefully it's cool enough to wear on St. Patrick's Day, so I can always have a little bit of green with my knitting, and since that's my birthday, it'll be fun to have this. So it's done, and that means that I only have one thing left from that month, the Vera Valimaki month, left to finish up, and it's my sweater that I'm going to tackle soon. So I finished that. And then after that was done, I cast on, because the designer this month is Tin Can Knits. And normally I would give a designer spotlight and everything, but since this episode is mostly focused on Maryland, I'm going to do the designer thing next month. And so this is in a bag that was gifted to me by my sweet friend, Ironical Knitter, and I believe it is a Silver Shed USA bag. And I cast this on. It was my first Tin Can Knits pattern. It's out of some Moon Rover in the lighthearted colorway, and this skein was actually gifted to me by Mrs. Brown's Bags, who does the amazing bags, and a grocery girl, so one of the two grocery girls. So this pattern was gifted to me by my friend Mandy, who is Mandy Pinecone Crafts, when I was having a rough day, which was so sweet of her. She's just one of the sweetest people I know. And it's a lovely color. It's got these blue, aqua blues and blacks and pinks and purples. And the raindrop pattern has these little raindrops created by yarn overs that kind of get bigger as you go down. And it's a kind of a raglan, or not a raglan, but it's a yoked sweater. So I'm almost to the point where I can take off the thread I can take off the arm stitches and put those on waist yarn, so I can just knit the body. And I'm excited because this is going to be for my daughter. I'm knitting like a 6-year-old size, and I just really love knitting things for her because she wears them, and it's fun to do things in smaller sizes, and it just feels very practical, like I'm doing something that is going to practically benefit my family. So yeah, that was the thing that I next cast on, and I worked on this some more over the weekend, which I'll talk about as I talk about the weekend. I'm actually going to show you my first, like a little bit of enabling now, because I need it for my tea, but I wanted to show it to you without any tea in it so you could see it first, but I got from Maryland Sheep and Wool. I wanted one of these, but we didn't get there super early, so I didn't even know if there'd be any left, because at Rhinebeck, when I got to go that one time, by the time we got to this booth, there were none left. Now, when I did get to it, there were none of the festival mugs left. So this was an old edition one, and I don't know if it was discounted. I don't know what the prices of the festival ones were. I only know what this one was, but this is a winter edition mug, but I just absolutely loved it. So it has snowflakes, and then there's a dinosaur, and he's wearing a hat and a little colorwork sweater and a scarf, and the scarf actually goes around the mug, and he has little hearts on his sweaters. And I have a Ginny the Potter mug that I got years and years ago from my husband as an anniversary present. And it has two little owls with hearts on them sitting in a tree. But it's so old that, you know, it's starting to kind of crack a little bit. And so I really wanted a new one. It still works, but it's just in case. This is insurance because I love her mugs. And then I wanted to show you the bottom. So it says JP for Ginny the Potter, and it has a heart. But yeah, so I'm gonna pour my tea now. I actually got this forever ago from David's Tea when it was on sale. It's like a little kettle because my son now loves to have tea at night, and my husband will kind of do it. So this holds enough for the three of us. And I just, you know, steep it in there. But the tea I'm having tonight actually was one from, I know I've talked about it before, but I get the Owl Crate tea, which is a book. It comes in a box with books and all these kinds of extra goodies, and it comes surprisingly with tea almost every other time, or maybe a little less frequent, but it's always different tea places, and it introduces me to all these new tea things that I've never heard about. So this one was in the box this last time, and it's from the Tea Spot, and it's the teaspot.com, and this is a color about yarn. This is a flavor that was done specifically for the Owl Crate, and it is Anna and the French Kiss. So it's a chocolate cherry bomb, and they always have coupon codes too if you want to buy more tea, which I haven't tried that yet, but I probably will. Oh, it's really good. It's really good. I'll definitely be going to their site to check out some more of the teas. But so, enough with tea, and keep going on to the Maryland wool. So I finished that, cast on the sweater for my daughter, and then Thursday morning, this is when like the tiredness started and it just kind of didn't stop. At a crazy time, way early, when it was still dark out, I got up before like anybody else in the house was up, really, except my husband, who got up to kind of make sure I left okay. But got up and went to the airport. And I knit a little bit on the flight, but to be honest, I do not enjoy flying. It makes me nervous. Any kind of I would rather have a migraine than be on an airplane with turbulence. And I get like bad migraines to where I can't go out and do anything. It just makes me my anxiety goes crazy when I'm on an airplane. And so I didn't really knit on the way up there any much because the turbulence was pretty bad on the way up there. I had my Be Kind shawl, and I rolled it into a ball, and I just kind of hugged it and kind of just sat there trying to be like in a calm space. But I did knit after that. So we picked up the rental car, and then we went to David's Tea, which is kind of the tea. This is a David's Tea teapot, and I normally drink a lot, but I got presents for my daughter's teachers, and then I got presents for friends and for my son's teacher, and I just got a whole bunch of presents, and I got a little bit of tea for me. But while we were driving the rental car, I knit, so this is the Daily Eggs colorway by Mustache Yarns. This was already finished, and I haven't woven in the ends. But this sock, when you last saw it, was just past the heel turn. I knit on this, a tiny bit on the plane, but then I just got too motion sickness. And then, or too nervous about the turbulence, and then I knit in the rental car because I was not going to drive. My friend Elisa, she luckily is really good at driving in crazy city traffic, so she drove, and I sat in the back and knit. And then after we went to David's Tea, I'm probably going to get some of this out of order, but I believe we went directly to her sister's house. And her sister was so sweet and let us stay there for free. And that's really the only way I could have gone, because, you know, it would have been too much money for me otherwise. And so I had one request, I had a couple requests, but I really wanted to try Ethiopian food, and we can't get that in San Antonio. You know, there is a little bit of diversity within the cuisine, but not as much as someplace like Washington, D.C. And oh yeah, while we're driving on the way to her sister's house, this is going to be a little discombobulated, but I got to drive by the White House. And that was pretty cool because I have not been to Washington, D.C. since I was in diapers. And we had this like picture that my mom always would show to people of me. It's like the comical Jeanette baby picture, because it's me in a stroller. We're at D.C. because my dad had a job thing that he was doing there. And so my mom went with him, with me. And they didn't really have any money at the time. My dad was, you know, just starting his career, and he was working all the time trying to, like, you know, get ahead in his career and stuff like that. But they'd forgotten a hat for me, and it was apparently very sunny, and they didn't have a lot of money, so they couldn't, you know, they didn't really want to they didn't have enough money to buy me a hat. And I'm like 1 or 18 months, I don't know, somewhere around that age. So my mom took out a diaper from the diaper bag, like a disposable diaper, opened it up and put it on my head. So it's a picture of baby Jeanette in a stroller with a diaper on her head. And that's apparently how I went around Washington, D.C. And so I don't really remember it being one and all. So I was just so excited because I got to see all these things, the Washington Monument, and got to see the White House. And so on Thursday evening, her brother-in-law, Elisa's brother-in-law, had an excellent recommendation for Ethiopian food, and we walked down there. Everything's pretty walkable, and I love walking. And the weather was amazing. And I'm so happy that I got to go and experience the colder weather a little bit, kind of hold on to that last little bit, because it's so hot in Texas. And her brother-in-law and sister live in this beautiful, almost brownstone community, and we got to sit on the stoop, and I had tea. They had, my friends Tania and Elisa had beer, and we just kind of sat and people watched. And then we walked down to the Ethiopian restaurant, and I'm a vegetarian, so I got the vegetarian sampler, and it was amazing. And I also got Ethiopian spiced tea, and it was just wonderful. And the woman there that was our waitress taught me the word for thank you in Ethiopian, and I'm not going to say it right now because I'll butcher it because I'm tired, but as you guys know, I love getting to learn other cultures and other languages. That's really a big passion of mine, and so that was just amazing. And of course, it started pouring a little bit after we left the restaurant, so we got an Uber Lyft thing back to the house, and I just kind of sat there and I knit more on the sock. And my goal was to finish it that first night, but I didn't end up doing it. I finished it the next day on that Friday. So Friday we woke up and it was torrential downpour, which is not the best for walking around a city and touring. But we were like, this is, like, we flew here. This is all we have. We go out and see things. And so I had asked if there was a cool donut place, because San Antonio, as far as I know, does not have a funky, cool donut place. I know I see in Portland like Voodoo Donuts and stuff like that, and it just looks really neat, all the different odd combinations they do. And I don't normally eat donuts for breakfast. I'm more of a savory person. Like, I'd rather have eggs on a toast or something, or avocado on toast, but I just really wanted to try a fun donut. So there was this place that, again, her brother-in-law Matt, who was essential in telling us all these amazing places, told us about District Donuts, which was not far from their house. So we went down to District Donuts, and there were all kinds of amazing donuts, and there were people coming in even though it was pouring down rain. So we had donuts there. And it was funny because my husband had texted me a picture because my daughter wanted donuts that morning, and when Daddy is watching them, she can talk him into bunches of things. So she'd be like, Daddy, can we get donuts? And so he took her to get donuts. It's, I think, Dunkin' Donuts. But he was like, oh, I'm getting Faye a donut at Dunkin' Donuts. And I said, my donuts are better than your donuts. And I texted him a picture of like this amazing array of crazy donuts. And he was like, yeah, your donuts are better. But then after that, I'm not going to remember the exact order, but I believe we went to Kramer Books. So I love books, as you guys know, and I had asked them, like, can we go to a bookstore? Because I just, you know, a lot of knitters want to go to the yarn stores in the area, and that's great, and I enjoy that too, but I really love going to bookstores and having like souvenir books. So I had looked up online, and there are a ton of great bookstores in DC, and there wasn't time to go to all of them, but we went to Kramer and the Afterwards Cafe. And I'm going to show you, well, I'm going to show you some of the books I got now, and then instead of like reviewing a book, I'm going to show you some of the other ones as like the book thing this week. So the thing I'm going to show you really fast right now is these two books, because I posted, my friend took a picture of me holding these, and a ton of people have been writing me messages that they don't really understand this concept, so I thought I'd just explain it. But here's what it is, and this is how it was presented in the bookstore. So they have a section, and some bookstores have them and some don't. It's nothing that I really did. So I guess if your bookstore or even some libraries do this, doesn't have it, then you could ask them if they can maybe do a blind date book area. But this is a section, and all the books are wrapped in brown paper and tied with these ribbons or some other thing. Maybe they're not even tied with that. And then they have a tiny little amount of words on the front that is like a brief synopsis of what the book is. So the I guess caveat with this is that if you read a lot like I do, and you're naturally drawn to certain types of books, you run the risk of having already read it. So this one I'm a little nervous, but this is fiction. Russian-German immigrant. This is a German, or a Russian. But coming of age rage, captivating narrator. So I don't think that I will have read this, but it's possible. But I don't remember a Russian-German immigrant, and there's so many books out there. And then this one was Brazilian contemporary fiction, gender plus identity, search for happiness. And I also kind of picked these two because they were some of the cheapest. Some of the other ones on the blind date shelf are more expensive. So I bought more books than I did skeins of yarn on this trip. So I was just, this to me is magical. What is contained in here, you don't know. And everybody was saying, what's in them? You have to open them. I don't open these until I am reading it right then. I have one from a year ago that I got at a bookstore that I still have not opened because I haven't read it yet. I'm not going to open it till I read it. And my friend Lisa was saying, you must have never peeked at your Christmas presents. And I don't remember if I did that, but I have no temptation to peek until I start reading this, because I just want to save it. It's special till I read it. So I just love that. And probably if you mentioned to your bookstore or whatever, they might do that. It's not a hard thing to do. And so after Kramer's, we went to Loop Yarn Store. And Loop was very nice. It was upstairs. It was cute. It had some really interesting yarns. And it also had, I've been wanting to try these. I really want the interchangeable needle set, but it's just too much money for me for right now. And so I thought that this would be the next best thing. So I got 2 fixed circulars, will be great for shawls. And this is the driftwood needle. And it's by Likey, I believe. But they're just stunning needles. So I got a size 5 and a US size 7, which is a 4.5 millimeter and a 3.75. And I really think these are gorgeous, and I'm excited to try them out. And then the last thing that I got at Looped, and I'm twins with my friend Tania, because she saw this and I was like, oh, it's the name and the colors. And they wrapped it up in this plastic bag for me so I could easily put it in my suitcase. And I've never heard of this yarn before. Manchette Shop. But it is in the colorway Succulent, and it's their simple sock. And it's these pinks and greens and shades of like a very pale, like a white, light green, like where the dye, was very pale, because the wonderful thing about indie dyed yarn is that you have these spots that are just, it's all unique and all different. And there's browns and different colors of green. So this is going to make beautiful socks. So it's a Succulent colorway. And they're not on Etsy. It looks like it's just their name.com is their shop. So they must be a pretty big yarn name that I've just never heard of. And so that's what I got it looped. And next we went to Fiberspace. And the vibe at Fiberspace was fun. The people there were very knowledgeable. And they were having a trunk show for Hazel Knits, but I only take a carry-on. I've talked about it a ton on the podcast. I'm a very big minimalist. I don't pack much. I don't need much, you know. And so I couldn't fit a Hazel Knits like, oh, you guys, there are lightning bugs, fireflies outside the window. It's dark outside and it's gorgeous. They're just all of a sudden lighting up the sky behind me. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Okay, focus. I can look at that after I podcast. But yeah, I wish I could show you. But the lighting probably wouldn't work for it. It's just beautiful. And so, Fiberspace had that, but I couldn't fit it in my thing. And I just, you know, I knew I was going to Maryland, and I just wasn't really feeling like buying a bunch of yarn right then. So I wanted to get something. And they did have a vast selection of pattern books. And there was one that I really wanted, Hannah Fettig, but they didn't have it. So I was surprised because they had a whole bunch of Hannah Fettig books, just not that one. So I got a Fiberspace button, and it has a ball of yarn and a girl with like fishnets and heels and a little spacesuit and a helmet. And she's like holding knitting needles. You can't see it, but it's for my knitting bag. And so then after that we had lunch, and then we went to the National Gallery of Art, and I got some magnets because I love magnets, and I got a magnetic bookmark. So I think like just a couple dollars was all I spent at the National Gallery of Art, but I just wanted to get something. And I thought this was beautiful. This is a Van Gogh painting. It's the Garden of the Asylum at St. Remy. And I just thought it was gorgeous. So we walked around the museum and got to see all the, well, not all of them because we didn't have enough time, but a bunch of the paintings. And then we sat in this like sculpture garden kind of area. And I taught my friend Tania how to cast on using kind of a Turkish or Judy's Magic cast on or whatever you want to call it for toe-up socks. And we sat there and knit for a little while. And then we left there and met her brother and sister and then my friend Tania's cousin down at this Mediterranean place for dinner. Which the food in DC, there's just so much amazing food. I'm definitely a bit of a foodie when it comes to like going to cities, books and yarn and food and all that kind of stuff. So we had dinner there, and then we just came back to the house and kind of hung out. And I don't even know if I knit then. I was just so tired. Each day I got progressively more tired. And then so we went to bed, and we woke up early on Saturday and headed out for Maryland Sheep and Wool. And it was quite a drive, maybe an hour and a half there, but the weather was so cold. It was wonderful. The only thing I wished is that I had sandals, which is not the best for cold, wet, damp, muddy ground. But everything else, like I had my doodler on, I got to wear my hoodie. I was just such in it, like enjoying the cold space. And we got there. Oh, we had bagels from Bullfrog Bagels on the way out. And then we got there and parked and went in. And it's funny because it's a lot. Now, it was rainy and muddy and cold, so I don't think the normal amount of people that go to this festival were there. In fact, I know some people that I really wanted to see did not end up making it out, so I was sad. But you probably know who you are if you're watching this, and you didn't go to Maryland. I wish I missed giving you a hug. But so we went there and walked around, and I wasn't really feeling too much like buying yarn or anything like that. The first thing I bought was the Jenny the Potter mug that I showed you. And then I think the next thing I bought, oh, and here's the little Maryland Sheep and Wool guide that they gave us. And then I think the next thing I bought was this Gale's Art sock blank. So it's a double stranded, which I've never done 2 at a time socks before. I don't think it's for me, but I mean, I'm willing to give it a try, or I could use this because it's double knit as a worsted weight yarn for like a stuffy. I think this colorway would look gorgeous for a stuffy or a hat or something, but it's called Dino Eggs. And it's just so squishy. And I've like known Gail, like known her, I guess like not as friend, like as kind of acquaintances for years. So she saw me and she remembered me. And I always, want to support people that, are really kind and nice and remember you when you come to their booth. And so I got that, and she's going to be vending other stuff this year. And the next thing I got was this Sheep Incognito little print, and it's called Hiccups. Hopefully it's not too much of a glare, but it's these sheep, and they're in a field, and they're surrounded by butterflies, and they're apparently having hiccups, so they're bouncing in the air and looking all cute. And I just love Sheep Incognito's stuff. I had another print that I got at Rhinebeck called Beside Still Waters, and it's a sheep beside a lake with mountains in the background. It's just such a calming picture, but I can't find it, and I don't have a lot of stuff, so I don't know where it even went to. And then the last thing I got, and this is another one where I know this person from SSK, and they were just so sweet to me. I went there, they recognized me, and so I really wanted to buy something and support her. And this is the last thing I got. It's Knitty in Color, and this is it's Sarah, and this is her new colorway, Whiskey and Wine. So it's these beautiful subtle grays, blacks, browns, and like purple burgundy, and I really love her stuff. And this is very soft sock yarn. Looks like a nice twist and everything. And it's her acoustic sock, which is an 80/20 400 yards. And so what else did we do? I had a tomato basil crepe there. I was nervous that I wasn't gonna be able to find any vegetarian food, because everywhere we were walking it was like lamb, 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 lamb burger, lamb burger, lamb burger, lamb. I was like, I'm not eating a baby sheep today. I'm not eating a lamb. I don't eat meat. And I was just like, it's fine. I'll just end up eating like cinnamon almonds or something for lunch. But there was a crepe place, and it was a super long line. I think it might be because it was the only vegetarian option. So maybe, I don't know, more vegetarian options so you don't have to wait like 30-40 minutes in a line for a crepe. But I don't even think the crepe people knew it was going to be that big of a hit, because it was so amazingly yummy. And I would wait in the line again, but it was tomato and basil in a crepe, and it was just so good. So it was a wonderful lunch. And I went to the podcaster meetup while I was there, and it was not like the one at Rhinebeck where it was just a ton of people. And I don't know if I was in the right, it was a big room, and I saw that there were podcasters in different parts of the room, but it really was kind of like how they are here in Texas. It was kind of like the podcasters meet up, like 90% podcasters, 10% viewers. It was mostly just podcasters hanging around talking. It's not, I think some people think that you're there and tons of fans are coming up at you, but it's not normally like that. That's kind of how more it was at Rhinebeck. But at the podcaster meetup, I got to hang out and give hugs to some amazing ladies who are the Pinhook and Needles ladies, and Crocheting Hoovian, and oh my gosh, Twist Fiber Ninja Chickens. I don't want to really name people because I'm going to forget someone, and I already know that in my head I have forgot some. Laura Smoot. Boston Jen. I'm already I don't even like to say names because I will inevitably forget someone, because I was so tired at that point that I was even having a hard time mustering up excitement. It was just dragging, because I had not been having any sleep for days. Because you're in a strange environment. You're not in your own bed. But I got to meet Steph Knitting Samurai, who was my one regret for not, she was at Rhinebeck and I was at Rhinebeck years ago, and I didn't get to meet her, so that was great. My friend Shannon Minerva Turkey was there at the festival somewhere, but I never found her, so that was sadness. And I think there were a lot of other people that I know on Instagram that I didn't actually get to meet in person, because I saw that they were at Maryland, because I saw their like posts on Instagram, and I was like, oh, I really wish I could gone to meet that person. I got to meet Aunt Val. Hi, I got to meet her and her husband, and they were so sweet. So it was awesome. Thank you so much. She came up to me when I was walking around the festival and was like, asked if it was me and stuff like that. And I love getting to meet people one-on-one like that, because you can really have conversation instead of in a big group or something. So that was amazing. And her husband seemed really sweet, and he was really happy to be there with her. They were having a fun time, I could tell. And I just it was great. And I just I had a lot of fun. And we met up there with Use Your Yarn Lisa, because we were going to be staying at her house that night. And so after the festival we left, and we went, just checking my time, we went and got Thai food for dinner. I love all these foods that so good. And then went back to Lisa's house, and Lisa has a bajillion movies. And she and I were just talking movies and movies. And because she found out that I liked a certain genre of movie that she likes. I was thinking about different directors, and she was asking me if I had seen this movie, and I came up with a giant list of movies to see. But anyways, we got back to her house. We immediately all changed into jammies, and we were just gonna knit and watch a movie. And I all of a sudden just started feeling so much better, because I wanted to get to see a ton of stuff, but it had been so much for my needing quiet time self, that I was so worn out, that the idea of just sitting and not having to talk, but just watching a movie was the best thing. So thank you so much, Lisa. Not having to take any more selfies. The girls that I went with, Elisa and Tania, love selfies. Tania had a selfie stick, and if you've seen my Instagram, I'm not a selfie person at all. I'm not opposite spectrum of the selfie person. I rarely ever post pictures of myself on there. And so it was really hard for me taking all those selfies. I probably looked very tired in all of them, because I was just so tired. Some of them I don't look tired, but a lot of them I look really tired. And so we just got to sit in our pajamas and watch a movie. And I was looking through all of her movies, and I came across one that I'd already seen called, I love Guillermo del Toro's films, love them, and Crimson Peak. She had that one, and I know some people hate it, some people probably never even heard of it, but it's beautifully done. It's visually stunning. If you don't like horror movies, it's not necessarily horror as much as it is a creepy film, but so we watched that, and I think they both liked it. Lisa and I like the scary movies, so we weren't as but I think they were a little more scared. And it was cute seeing them oh my gosh. And we watched that and just kind of hung out and talked about, movie stars, cute movie stars and stuff like that. It was just a really fun evening, and then wrapped it up, went to bed, and woke up in the morning, and then got all the stuff packed to get on the flight. And I got on the flight, and I have to show you guys this, because this was just the sweetest thing ever, and I forgot to talk about it earlier. But when I met the Pinhook and Needles ladies, we were chatting about podcasts, not knitting, just learning podcasts, about history and science and old movies and words and everything. And so we're at recommending podcasts, and I was telling them how I hate flying. And as they were leaving, Marlesia gave me a rosary, because she said for flying, because I told her how scared and how nervous it made me. And I told her, I said, I am not Catholic. And she was like, that's fine. But I do know, because my dad was raised Catholic, went to school with nuns and everything. So I do know the, different prayers that you say for the bees and stuff. But so I took this on the plane, and there wasn't much turbulence on the actual flight, but the landing was very, very rough. And I just, whenever I was feeling nervous, I would kind of hold this in my hand, and it was automatically calming to me. And I just felt like Marlicia and Talia's hugs and the sweet, like I actually cried when they gave this to me, because it was just so touching that she cared enough about me feeling peaceful during my flight to give me. It's just, knitters are wonderful and so kind, and just, it's such a heartwarming thing to have somebody think of you in that way. And so I'm going to take this on every single flight that I have now, because it really helped calm me. And I wrote to her as soon as I landed, I think pretty soon after I landed, to say thank you for this, because yeah, it did help me feel very calm. And there was a woman next to me, an older woman, who was very much freaked out, and I think I would have been super freaked out right there along with her if I hadn't had this. So thank you again so much, and it was just lovely of you. I totally was sobbing, which I seem to cry a lot when people give me something, because I never expect it. It's just people are so kind. And so then, yeah, I got home and hugged my kids, and they told me all about all the crazy adventures they had while I was gone. And I love my family so much, and I had missed them so much. My husband had texted me pictures of, you know, my son and my daughter, and we had gotten this new parakeet a little while ago. Thank you to Transitory Pins and Pin Feathers and Pearls, who gave me some tips about parakeets. But my husband sent me a video of him trying to escape from his cage. He's become a little escape artist, and I was just so happy to get home to my little quirky, crazy family of cat, dog, bird, family, humans. And so it was just wonderful, and that's why I didn't podcast when I got home yesterday on Sunday, because I just wanted to see them and just kind of soak in and the wonderfulness, and just, you know, get to come together again as a family, which was amazing. And so I think that's all the Maryland part. I'm sure I missed something, but I am going to draw for the winners for the sweater knit along that ended, and the wonderful Silver Tombs stitch markers, and I will tag all the winners for those in the thread for this episode. And yeah, so you'll see all that there, but I'm gonna show you books really quickly. So when we were kind of getting ready to leave her sister's house, somebody had, Lisa's sister's house in DC, somebody had a free little library outside their house, which I love that idea. I could definitely keep one going for years and years with the amount of books but I was like, I'm gonna grab one out of the free little library, and I'll put another one here after I finish, because this is The Moon King, and it is by Neil Williamson, and it says, all is not well in Glassholm. Life under the moon has always been so predictable. Day follows night, wax phases to wane, and after the despair of every dark day, a person's mood soars to euphoria at full. So it has been for 500 years, and it looks like it's a fantasy. And so if you haven't heard of this and you like fantasy, you might check it out. So it's The Moon King, and it's by Neil Williamson. I didn't really do much research on these, so if if that genre sounds interesting to you, then definitely, go do some more research for yourself, see. And then I got this, because I love when bookstores have a staff recommends section, because I always find it so fascinating to get one from there. But this is a beloved classic, a 20-year correspondence between an American writer and a British bookseller. And it's 84 Charing Cross Road, and it's by Helen Hannah. So it looks like just this tiny little book. It says first published 1970, and it's just about two people's letters. Helen Hannah, who's a writer in New York City, and then a used book dealer in London, and kind of their friendship throughout the years from letters. So I think that sounds charming. And then I had to check out the poetry section. I was looking for something by a living poet who is, from a different background to myself. And so this is Vani Capideo. I'm so tired. And it's Measures of Expiration. And it has this very like feathers on a beach. And it's a poems about complex alienation and addresses issues of identity in contemporary Western society. The poet was born in Trinidad, but is a resident in the UK, and it just talks about things such as, you know, sexuality and how women are portrayed, and definitely different stuff like that. So I'm excited to read that this year. And then the last one I'm going to show you, I was very happy because the man who checked us out at Kramer Books was wonderful and so knowledgeable. And when he saw that I had picked this up, he's like, I'm so glad you got that one, because he said some of the graphic novels back there weren't worth the paper and ink it took to print them, but that this one was one of his favorites. So if you're a graphic novel fan and you haven't read this, you might check it out. But you probably have heard of it because it was a National Book Award finalist. But this is Stitches, a memoir. And it is kind of, the front cover I believe is misleading. It's kind of maybe a little creepy. And it's by David Small. I don't really know a ton of what it's about, and it doesn't really say. But I mean, it's about this little boy, and I think he basically has to have some kind of operation, and creepy things happen and things like that. And I'm just excited to read it because I learned about this one from Goodreads. It was I believe a Goodreads Award finalist or something on that as well. So that's Stitches, a memoir. And I think that's everything I have. Oh, I meant to show you too that on the plane ride back, I started my husband's second sock. So I had finished the first one, Out of Gnome Acres, and then I started the second one. There's not much to it because I was holding the rosary almost the entire 3 hours and a quarter flight back just to make, just to keep myself calm. So yeah, but that is everything. And until next week, I hope you have a wonderful week and you get to do all the things you love. Okay, bye guys.